Hey there everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about how exactly are you supposed to calculate an offer if you're a real estate wholesaler. We're going to go over everything. I'm going to show you my calculator that I use. I'm going to show you how I run comps, how I come up with the ARV, how I come up with MAO, how I come up with all of these things in this single video. So if you're planning to learn these things, take out a notepad, take some notes, ask me questions in the comments during this video if you have any questions about anything that I talk about. So we're going to use two tools today. One of them is PropStream and one of them is Zillow. So let's hop right in and let's talk about it. All right, so we're in PropStream, right? And let's say you are wanting to determine a value of a single family home. Let's start with the simple process. I believe single family homes are the easiest ones to determine value for. And the reason behind that is there's enough comparables out there for you to find something specific to your home, especially if you're in a populated area, right? If you're like in Tampa or St. Petersburg or whatever other city you're working in, you're fine. But like if you're right here somewhere there's a lot of land, it's going to be a lot harder. But let's talk about Tampa so you can kind of understand the gist of it, so you can understand how you're going to run comps. Because the first aspect before you can make an offer is you to determine the ARV, so after repair value, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is MAO, is maximal allowable offer. So you're gonna estimate all of those things based on the findings that you find. But the first part of this equation, like I said, is the ARV, and we're gonna start with that, and then we'll get to the rest, and then I'm gonna show you guys my calculator that I use in order to determine the MAO. All right, so let's just say we start with this property, right? It's in Tampa, Florida. It is 1,100 square feet, and the lot size is 5,300. Year built, all that good stuff, right? So PropStream gave us all the information. They also gave us the MLS tab, so it looks like the people bought it on MLS in 2019 for $118,000, which is extremely cheap nowadays, of course. So that can't happen nowadays in Florida. That's not the case. But let's just talk about this, right? So when we click the comparables tab, right, all of these comparables pop up. There's a lot of information, and most of the time there will be a lot of information, and you need to weed out most of this information. All you need is 3 to 5 comps. 3 is more than enough, but if 5, if you want to be like super sure. So let's see if we can find the 3 comps that we're looking for. One of the things that I want you to pay attention to is that the square footage here is between 880 and 1,320. Why does PropStream do that? Because they give you a range. So like in this situation, it's 100 and 220 square feet difference between the property that we're working on. So they give you 20% more and 20% less in this particular situation, right? So which is fine. A lot of people do that. You know, I like to be within 150 square feet. So I would even, you know, if I was running comps, I would kind of even adjust this. I would go at least 950 to 1250. Right, so that kind of limits also, it brings our comps down, especially when you have so much information. I like to be within 150 square feet, especially in the smaller homes. When you're working on homes that are like 2,500, 3,000 square feet, all that stuff, then you can maybe increase it to that 10% whatever mark, 10, 15%. But on the smaller homes, 150 square feet is more than enough. So that's that, right? So that's done. I don't like to look at homes that have been sold within 1 year, right? So homes that have been sold within the last year are not good comps. I prefer personally to stay within 90 days if I can. And this is obviously if there is a lot of information. As you can see here, I actually have 28 comps, 28 selected. So I still a lot, so we want to narrow it down. So therefore, we're going to go to 90 days. Today is January 28th. We're gonna go down and we are gonna go, let's say, so that's December, November, October 28th. Okay, so that's within 90 days, right? So now we're down to 7 comps. Now, as you can see, a lot of these comps are like 1,700, right? So those are rentals. MLS also gives you rental comps. So that's not important for us. So sometimes I like to switch from MLS. If I don't want to see rentals, I switch only to public records, right? If you can see here, if you do both, you have 7. If you do public records, you have 6. So one of them was eliminated, which is this 1,745 comp. So that's gone, right? So now we got public records of properties. And now I want to look at proximity. So this gives me half a mile, which is fine. I would just keep it there, you know, unless it's like there's still so many comps and I need to narrow that down. That would have been the third step I would have taken, is to narrow down the miles, but in this situation 7 is more than enough, right? So we're gonna stick there. So as you can see here, I like these comps, and there's a reason why I don't like this particular one, because it is across a major highway. I know this area, and I know that the area on the north side is better than what's on the south side, but even if I didn't know that, you don't want to cross major highways when you're running comparables. That is what appraisers do, and that's what you want to do. I learned a lot of these not from wholesalers or investors. A lot of these techniques I've learned from appraisers directly, because all the properties we've bought, I've always talked to the appraisers to understand their thought process when they are appraising these properties, right? So that's the questions I always ask them, like, how do you do this? Why do this one and not this one? You know, whatever it is. All right, so let's take a look at it. Do we have any good comps? We may not at all, because personally, I only see 187, which is quite low, right? So if I know general area values are higher than that, 186 seems quite low. Let's get information. It was sold on MLS in 2024. It was a cash sale. So most likely this was a fixer-upper if it was a cash sale. The next thing I would do is that if I don't have any MLS information, I would Google the address, and I would not look at Zillow, because Zillow a lot of times erases the information after it's done, like it's off the market. I would use Redfin or Realtor.com. So let's say I would do Realtor.com. I look at it, it's a fixer-upper. It's the definition of a fixer-upper. This needs a whole rehab, the whole thing. You know, it's already in a rough shape. There's no savings to it, right? So it's 187 they sold it for, and it was 1,222 square feet. So that's a little bigger than a subject property, but that was a fixer-upper. This is not an ARV comp. This is like as-is value comp. Good to have those. You can put those to the side just to keep in mind. You can use this during negotiations with the seller. Say, hey, there's a property that's in a bad shape, that's sold, you know, whatever. You can use those, but we're not looking for that at the moment. We're looking for ARV comps. Let's keep going, right? So we got 299, again, that's across the highway. We got 3,000. We got 522,000, which makes no sense. It's probably not a property that we can do something with. I mean, it's hard to say why they sold for that much, but a lot of times those just don't fit the criteria we're looking for. So we're gonna move on from this one. It's probably nothing we can do with it. And there you go. There's really no comps that fit within this criteria. So what do I do in this situation? In this situation, I'm gonna increase the date. I'm gonna go to 6 months now, and the reason behind that is, you know, 6 months is still okay. It's not my favorite at that point, but it's still okay. So let's go to 6 months. Let's see if there's any new comps. Seems like we do have new comps. Number 1, 140, 187. Not really interested in that. Number 3, okay. So number 3 is 220. All right, let's click that. Let's see if that's something we can work with. Let's go number 4. Again, that's the property across the highway. Number 6, it's a property that is not across the highway. It's on this side of the highway, but it is on the highway, right? So when something is on the highway, its value, or on the main road, it is valued less than something that's not on the main road. So take a note of that. That's, you know, I recently had a property that we were trying to make an offer on, and we talked to an appraiser, and pretty much the idea was that you cannot appraise something that is on the main road using the side road, like the non-main road properties. So we had to kind of stick and try to find only main road properties. So let's see, but I'm still gonna see it just to understand, like maybe it was a fixer-upper, gives us some kind of baseline, but you know, let's see. Then we got number 7, again, nothing we can do there. And then we also got number 8 now, that's 315,000 that sold for. All right, so we got a couple of things to look at. 220,000, what was this? This was bought by an LLC, not off MLS. This looks like it was purchased off market. So from what I understand now, it was most likely a fixer-upper as well, right? So this property was a potential fixer-upper. Maybe it was not really a fix and flip. Maybe it's a rental type of opportunity because they paid a little more than the other home that we saw. Or maybe it was just in a better shape than the other home that we saw, right? So kind of I think this is not really our ARV comp, but we can move on. The next one is $306,000, 968 square feet. If you remember, our property is bigger, is 1,100 square feet. So, okay, so interesting, right? So let's take a look at this one. Sold on market for 72 days. Let's say, welcome to your dream. Whose own is commercial, fully remodeled. Okay, this is a fixer up. This was a flip. This is an ARV comp. And if you look at it, I like to look at the mortgage and transaction history that PropStream provides. And I can see that somebody bought the property for $20,000 and then they resold it for $170,000. They make a good amount of money there. Maybe it was like some kind of a situation. And then, you know, these people resold it for $306,000, right? So that property just went up in price like crazy. So let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at some photos. Realtor.com. Let's see, right? So obviously fixer-upper, fully remodeled, very standard. I mean, not my favorite remodel because it's all gray, and you know, I don't think that's really in anymore, but that's a different conversation. So okay, that's fine. You know, it's okay. The bathroom is nice, but it's done, right? So this is a fully flip. Everything is good. Everything is good to go, right? 968 square feet, 3.2. You know, nothing really we need to do here anymore, but now we can take a note of this, right? It's 316 square feet. We're gonna save this one to the side, and we're gonna get back to it when we start typing this stuff into the calculator. The next one that we found was this one, 315,000, right? That was also purchased in August. This deluxe 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes, perfect blend, well-designed kitchen. It doesn't say it's fully remodeled, but at this price range, I'm going to assume it is. So let's take a look at it. Let's see photos. Okay, yeah, it's a remodeled property. It's maybe it's not a flip because they didn't do granite countertops or stuff like that. Even if it's not a flip, but it looks like this, an appraiser will still probably use this when they are appraising the home for your flipper when your flipper is ready to sell. They are still going to use this. They will call this a difference in design, not difference in quality, right? So they will say, well, just design difference. You know, it's not that it's not outdated or it's not bad shape. It's good shape. It's just not, you know, the same style as your flipper's property, right? So it's not as modern per se in certain things. So 315,000, as you can tell, in 2020 somebody bought it and they sold it in 2024. So potentially I'm assuming that somebody bought it in 2020 as a rental. They updated certain things as a rental and then eventually sold it, right? So that's my thought process, what happened. So okay, that's fine, right? So it's a potential comp. I'm gonna just also put it to the side, right? Okay, so the next step we're gonna take, we're actually gonna now, besides using what we found in PropStream, we're gonna use Zillow, right? So we're gonna type in the address, search for it, right? This is the address of the property that we're trying to estimate the value for. And it's interesting because there's some pictures of old on Zillow. They bought this in 2019 for 118,000. Nowadays, that same property is probably worth like 250. That's crazy. But all right, that's nevertheless a different conversation. So let's see, right? So we're gonna, all right now, so after we found the property on Zillow, right? So I know it's right here. Now we're gonna look at comps, right? So we're gonna go ahead and do 90 days to start with. We're gonna go ahead and do 1,250 square feet and then 1,000 square feet, very small search. We're just gonna see if there's anything on Zillow that's not on PropStream, right? So we're sticking with this area, like I said. We're actually going to draw. So we're gonna make you draw in this area right here. See if there's any homes that are being sold, right? So these are the comps in the last 90 days. We do have this comp that I haven't seen on PropStream. So we're gonna click that one. We do have this comp that I haven't seen on PropStream. But as you saw, we don't have the two comps that we do have on PropStream because obviously they're more than 3 months, but still, right? So we kind of have these two. These would be my probably most important comps because they are more recent. So let's see. All right, so this one right here, just recently sold about a month ago, renovated home, 3.2, 1,200 square feet. The one we have is a 1,100 square feet. So it's 100 square feet bigger, still within our range what we want to do. It's a 2006 construction, so that makes it a little newer. So that's a difference that we want to make sure we take a note of, because a much newer property would value for a little more. You know, this one right here is 1,200 square feet, updated, and it's an older home. You can tell it used to be an older home. It's been fully updated with all the renovations, right? So let's take a look at this one. I still, again, Zillow is good for running comps, but it's not good for saving pictures. So realtor we go. All right, so very pretty cool, very cool style. Not a typical flip. Really like this. Really like this. I think this is a good good home. Good home. 324,000, 1,200 square feet. So 100 square feet bigger. Price per square footage right here. So that's one of the ones we're also going to save. This one right here, let's just take a look at it. Might as well. It's very similar square footage, but it's a little newer, so we're gonna take a note of that. Let's take a look at it. Let's see how the photos looked inside. Let's just make sure it is on point with what we're looking for. Yep, very nice, modern remodel, clean, everything. You know, no questions there. This is a good remodel, right? So okay, so right now we have 4 comps. After all of that, we're gonna use 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 comps, we're gonna put it into what we call a calculator, and we're gonna run comps based on that. I'm gonna show you my calculator here shortly. All right, now that we have all the information, we're gonna type it into the calculator, and we're gonna actually calculate what is the max allowable offer of this property, right? And this is obviously MAO is the latest and the final thing you're trying to calculate when you're making your offers as a wholesaler. All right, so let's just copy and paste all this basic information, the address, right? We got beds and bath. It's a 3-1. Square footage of our subject property is 1,100. No pool, no basement. Frame, yes. Year built, 1926. Okay, so that's that. Now look at our comps. We have 4 comps, but I'm gonna choose 3 of them to use, and the reason why I'm gonna show you guys in a second. So the first comp I'm actually going to utilize is this comp, and this comp was the one that was a single family home flip, but it was a frame home, right? So I want something that can match something that what our property is, because if you look at it, it's actually a frame home, so it's yes here, it's no basement, no pool. So you want to see if you can match the property very similarly to the one that you have, right? You don't want to use a property with a pool or a basement if your property doesn't have it, or if it's a block home, you don't want to compare it to a frame home. Potentially, right? You don't want to, but sometimes there's no other options. But, you know, I'm just saying overall, this is what we're going to try to do. It's actually a 2-1, and the square footage is 1,200. So it's a pretty big, but it's a 2-1. And the price that it sold for was $324,000, right? All right, so we got that one. So that's a $270 per square foot property. Let's go to the next one. The next one that I want to use is a home that was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So I don't love the fact that it's more bedrooms or bathrooms. The next one I want to use is not a frame home, unfortunately. So that's something for you to keep in mind when you're running comps, because yes, this will give you like a general information what the MAO is, but some of the comps should have a little bit more weight than others, right? Depending on the shape of on how they're similar to your original property. This one is not as similar, but it is a good comp because it's still 1,052 square feet property. The price that it sold for was $315,000. 3-2 pool, no pool, basement, no basement, right? All right, so that one sold for $299.43. Probably for a couple of reasons, because it had more beds and baths, and because of the fact that it wasn't framed, right? So that's sold for better price per square footage than the other property. Here's the interesting kicker, right? You guys can ask, why am I not using the square footage of the lot when I'm doing this? And a lot of times it doesn't really change stuff much, especially if you're doing infill properties that are like in the city, it's very similar. There are 50 to 100 to 200 square feet difference, maybe even 1,000 square feet lot difference. It doesn't really change much. If you're going outside the city, or if you're doing a redevelopment, like let's say you're doing an offer based on the fact that the buyer can split the lot and do something, whatever, then that changes a lot. But in this case scenario, in the standard case scenario, it doesn't change anything. The next comp I don't want to use, if you guys remember, I had a comp that was a brand new construction. Don't want to use that one. It was a 2006 construction. It's just a little bit too new for me. So I want to go for something else. We're going to use this home, which also was unfortunately a block home. However, it was built in 1950, so it's an older home, and it was a smaller square footage. So that's also a good reference for us, because we are actually going to know we have something that's very similar, something that's a little bigger, something that's a little smaller. I like that. That actually feels like it's the right way to do this. So we're going to go 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and didn't have a pool, didn't have a basement, and it was not framed. All right, so this one particularly sold for $316 per square foot. Again, why is that? So hard to say, right? Maybe because even though this one was on the main road, this was the main road property. There could be many reasons why, but that's why we always take an average of the comps, right? So if you took the average of the 3, one was lower, one was medium, one was higher. So your average price per square footage is $295. Okay. So now what we have is average price per square footage. We have the square footage of the original property, and the MAO calculator gives you that after repair value of the subject home that we have is $324,700. Right? That is a rough estimate, but that's good to know. That could be the case. There's 70%. Okay, so what's 70%? Why is it 70% discount percentage? So every market is a little different. So I unfortunately can't really tell you what your market is like, but 70% is a good starting point. What is this, right? So let's talk about it first. This is the price that your buyer wants to pay for the property, for your wholesale fee, and for the renovations. That is the all-in. This is the amount they want to be in, because they want to, for the rest of it, they want to save for any lending costs, title fees, etc., and whatever is going to be their profit, right? So that's their thought process. So in very competitive markets, that 70% is higher. So like, let's say in Tampa, Florida, it's actually about 77 to 78 sometimes, depending on how good of an area it is, but let's just put 75%, right? If you're in a competitive market. But let's just say your roof is $10,000, you have to do $5,000 in plumbing, you have to do $3,000 of electrical work, you got to spend another $3,000 on paint, $5,000 on flooring. Let's say you're doing $5,000 kitchen remodel, $3,500 bathroom remodel. Let's say $1,000 on landscaping. Let's say windows are good, whatever. So let's say you have to spend $35,500 onto this property, which is a very cheap remodel. A lot of times it's a lot more than that, because some of these things, the bathroom and kitchen remodel should be more. Let's just say, just to make it a little bit more realistic numbers, $7,500 is the kitchen, and the bathroom. The bathroom is probably about $5,000, just to make it a little bit more realistic numbers. Okay, so almost $40,000 is what you have to spend on repairs. So after you estimated the repairs, you have your ARV that you estimated as well. Now you're actually looking at the maximum allowable offer. So MAO in this situation really doesn't calculate your wholesale fee into this. So this $204,000 is the maximum price your buyer probably is going to want to pay for this property. So therefore, you need to be underneath this, right? So you need to get the property for $190, $195, $180, whatever you can get it for, right? So if you can get it for $195, you can sell to your buyer at $205 or whatever, and you can make $10,000 on this fee, right? So that's something that you have to calculate. So you have to offer less than MAO, right? So how much you want to make. That's how the MAO works in this calculator. Again, it's very simple, and there's only a couple of formulas, but they're all included in the spreadsheet that I use. If you guys do want to get this spreadsheet, leave a comment down below. I will send you guys the spreadsheet to whoever comments, and you guys can utilize this for your own business. There's also explanations on this as well. like I said, this spreadsheet is super simple, very easy to use, but at least it gives you a visualization of what the properties in the area go for and how you can utilize it in order to estimate the cost for the property that you're looking to make an offer on. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel because you don't want to miss more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.